Every few months now, it feels like the universe taps us on the shoulder. A new UFO clip on TikTok, another Navy video circulating on X, a fresh government acronym, and now a Spielberg trailer called Disclosure Day dropping into the mix. The sound design in that trailer? Those alien vocalizations feel suspiciously close to the ones that freaked people out in science. In a moment, I'm going to play you a short soundbite from that trailer, just a few seconds of those voices. As you listen, don't just treat it like a cool Hollywood audio. Notice how it feels in your body. Does it feel oddly familiar? Weirdly disturbing? Does it poke at anything you just can't quite place? Strange dreams, missing time, or half-remembered something happened to me experiences. If any part of you has ever wondered about alien abduction memories or high strangeness encounters, pay attention to what this sound does to you. Now, if that hit harder than you expected, you're not alone. So here's a Lightseed question. Is Hollywood just really good at reading the cultural weather, or are we, little by little, being narratively prepared for something more official? Was Spielberg read in, or is he just, once again, the guy who points a camera at a collective anxiety before anyone else does? Tonight, I'm not chasing random UFO stories. I'm doing something narrower and in some ways weirder. What has the US government actually admitted about UAPs on the record? And what has it very carefully not admitted? My name is Andrew. This is Lightseed Radio. Let's put the rumors, the trailers, and the transcripts side by side and see what story really emerges. Let's start with the boring but important bit, words. For decades, the term was UFO, unidentified flying object. That word now carries all the cultural baggage, flying saucers, abductions, X-Files, and your uncle's blurry photos from the 70s. So when the modern US government wanted to talk about strange things in the sky, they rebranded. UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena, and later, unidentified anomalous phenomena. So they could include things in not just in space, but also underwater. That wasn't just a vibe choice, it was bureaucratic. Changing the language made it easier to brief Congress, easier to build task forces and offices, and easier to say, we're not doing UFOs, we're doing aviation safety. Very quickly, here's a modern disclosure timeline in broad strokes. 2004, the Nimitz Tic Tac. Off the coast of California, Navy pilots and radar operators track a white, tic-tac-shaped object performing maneuvers that make no aerodynamic sense, dropping tens of thousands of feet in seconds, no visible wings, no exhaust. 2014 to 15, Gimbal and GoFast. Off the US coast, more Navy pilots record weird objects on forward-looking infrared cameras, rotating, accelerating, doing things that don't look like drones or conventional aircraft. For years, those videos bounced around in the shadows. Then in 2017, the New York Times drops the story. The AATIP program, which is the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, that's a mouthful, is exposed along with the now famous FLIR, F-L-I-R, Gimbal and GoFast videos. In 2020, the Pentagon releases the videos officially. They confirm the footage is real and taken by US Navy aircraft. They very carefully do not say what the objects are. In 2021, the ODNI Preliminary UAP report, an unclassified report to Congress, summarizes 144 recent UAP cases. One is explained as a balloon. The other 143 unidentified. A subset show unusual movement, patterns, or performance that don't match known systems. 2022, a new office is born. After a reshuffle of acronyms, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, is created to centralize UAP investigations across air, space, and undersea domains. 2023 and 24, hearings and reports. We get public hearings where Navy pilots, radar operators, and whistleblowers testify under oath. We get AARO releasing reports that, on the one hand, admit there are still anomalous cases, and on the other hand, firmly say they found no credible evidence of crashed alien craft or hidden non-human bodies in official US programs. So that's a paper trail we can point to. Navy videos, intelligence reports, new offices, sworn testimony, all saying, yes, this is a real problem set, and no, we're not ready to call it alien. Let's be very precise about what is now on the public record. The US government has officially admitted that military pilots and sensors have repeatedly recorded objects that can't be easily identified. Some of these objects show signature manageable or unusual flight characteristics, sharp accelerations, lack of obvious propulsion, weird radar cross-sections. These incidents have been serious enough to be listed as flight safety and national security concerns. The data is strange enough that they created permanent bureaucratic structures, task forces, then AARO, to keep investigating. We also have experienced pilots saying under oath that they see unknown objects every day for years on some training ranges. Radar operators describing tracks that don't fit conventional aircraft profiles. Intelligence briefing language that openly acknowledges unknowns in controlled airspace. There is, in their words, no verifiable evidence that the US government currently holds crashed extraterrestrial vehicles or non-human bodies in any documented program. So the official position is kind of a split brain. Yes, real unknowns. No, we're not prepared to say it's aliens. Yes, we're worried about safety and adversary tech. No, we're not admitting to reverse-engineered craft. Then the admitted layer. Now we get to the more interesting part, the things that show up in the edges of the transcript but not in the official conclusions. In recent years, a different kind of testimony has emerged. Not just pilots saying, I saw something I couldn't explain, but intelligence insiders saying there are legacy programs hiding non-human tech, and I can't show you the files in public. We've had whistleblowers like David Grusch testify that he was told of multi-decade crash retrieval and reverse engineering programs. Some of the alleged materials were non-human in origin. Access to these programs was deeply compartmentalized, even from normal oversight channels. Now here's the key. The official response has not been, we have confirmed these programs exist. It's been closer to, we investigated those claims and found no documented evidence in approved channels, which leaves a very awkward space. If you trust the whistleblowers, you might say, of course there wouldn't be evidence in normal channels. If you trust the official review, you might say, extraordinary claims, no hard proof shown. Either way, there's a mismatch between what's said under oath by individuals and what's written in institutional reports. That mismatch is where a lot of the current disclosure anxiety lives. Now layer that against what's happening in culture. You have a new Spielberg trailer, Disclosure Day, dropping into a world already saturated with UAP hearings and leaked cockpit footage. The alien sounds in that trailer? If you've watched enough genre films, they feel like cousins of the sound design in Signs and earlier UFO cinema. For some people, sounds like that are just cool and creepy. For others, they're genuinely disturbing. They light up that deep, hard-to-name sense of, I've heard something like this before, and I don't know why. If that clip I played earlier stirred anything like that in you, memories, flashes, or even just a spike of fear, treat that gently. You don't have to force an answer or a label on it. Just notice that this kind of sound design can hit something very old and very personal in the human nervous system. So people look at all this and ask, is this just Spielberg being Spielberg? Or is Hollywood now part of a managed narrative arc, just getting us ready for some kind of official disclosure? Here's the honest, grounded answer. We do know that historically parts of the US government have cooperated with Hollywood on films involving the military, intelligence, and space, sometimes even suggesting script changes in exchange for access to hardware and locations. We do not know that Spielberg or this trailer is any part of classified disclosure plan. There's no public evidence that he's been read into anything like that. But from a systems point of view, it almost doesn't matter. What matters is official documents are finally talking openly about real unknowns in the sky. At the same time, our biggest storytellers are packaging those anxieties into high-budget, emotionally charged narratives. Whether that's coordinated or emergent, the result is similar. A slow, steady normalization of the idea that we are not alone and the government knows more than it's saying. That's where this episode lives, in the overlap between what's on paper and what's in the stories we're being fed. Let's strip the drama away for a moment and look at the shape of the data as it's been presented. Across the official reports and hearings, you see a few repeating themes. 1. Most UAP reports are boring. Once enough data accumulates, many get reclassified as balloons, drones, airborne clutter, or misidentified ordinary aircraft. 2. A minority remain truly anomalous. These are the cases where multiple sensors agree, radar, IR, visual. The maneuvers look non-ballistic and non-aerodynamic, and no known platform or atmospheric phenomenon fits easily. 3. Data quality is often terrible. UAPs don't pose for high-end cameras. You get compressed cockpit videos, short radar tracks, missing telemetry. And 4, the government is explicitly worried about human threats. Even when they talk about unknowns, they keep returning to adversary drones, sensor gaps, potential foreign tech advantages. So on the record, the story is, we have a real, documented anomaly problem with both mundane and potentially exotic contributors. We're not prepared to say aliens, but we can't cleanly explain everything either. That's already a huge shift from the old era of nothing to see here and swamp gas and weather balloons. Equally important is what's not being embraced publicly, things that are mentioned in testimony, reported by journalists, and whispered by insiders, but never absorbed into the official narrative. For example, claims of crash retrieval and reverse engineering programs are repeatedly described as unverified, lacking documentary support. Alleged non-human biologics are referenced in hearings, but the official investigative bodies say they've seen no hard evidence. Historical UFO cases, Roswell, the 50s and 60s wave, certain Cold War incidents, those are acknowledged as part of the law, but mostly kept in a separate legacy bucket from the modern UAP files. So we end up with 3 layers. Publicly admitted anomalies, what's in the reports, public testimony that goes further, what individuals say under oath, cultural amplification, films, series, trailers, and now AI-generated stories all filling in the gaps. And in the middle of that triangle is you and me trying to decide what we actually believe and why. So back to the original question. Is Hollywood and people like Spielberg now part of a managed disclosure narrative? The only honest answer from where we sit is we don't know. But we can map out a few plausible scenarios. Scenario 1, purely emergent. Governments, pilots, and scientists start talking more openly about UAPs. The public gets interested. Hollywood, as it has always done, takes raw fear and wonder and turns it into a story. No conspiracy, just a feedback loop. Scenario 2, soft coordination. Some consultants and liaisons between the military, intel world, and studios nudge certain themes. Emphasize the threat, emphasize the awe, don't show this or that tech too accurately. Still most emergent, but with gentle steering. Scenario 3, deliberate narrative shaping. Behind closed doors, someone says, In 10 or 20 years, we may have to tell the public something big. Let's use media to slowly normalize the idea that we're not alone and that we're not fully in control of the sky. From the outside, all three scenarios can look almost identical. Same trailers, same movies, same TikToks. What changes is the intention behind them, and that's the piece we don't get to see yet. So instead of pretending we know, this show tries to do something else. Hold up the documents, the testimony, and the stories side by side, and let you decide how deep the coordination might go. So here's where we land. We live in a moment where the US government officially admits that there are unresolved anomalous objects in controlled airspace. Whistleblowers swear there's more behind the curtain, crash retrievals, non-human tech, and the official reports say we can't verify that. Meanwhile, Hollywood rolls out trailers that feel like they were designed by your subconscious after a night of binging Pentagon PDS and UFO Twitter. Is that coordinated disclosure? Is it just capitalism plus collective anxiety? Or is it something stranger where the story itself is part of how we're being prepared for whatever comes next? I can't give you a clean answer, but I can give you this: a record of what's been put on paper, a record of what's been said under oath, and a space here in Lightseed Radio where we can ask questions out loud without pretending we already know the ending. Okay, if this episode helped you connect a few dots, or at least see which dots are real and which ones are just movie posters, consider subscribing, sharing it with someone who lives in that same maybe space, and checking the notes for links to the key reports and hearings we've talked about. Because between silence and full-blown disclosure, there's a long, messy middle, and right now, that's where we're all living. Before we wrap completely, a quick heads up about what's coming next on Lightseed Radio. The next episode is going to be live, my first live show ever. It will be this Sunday evening. It's December 21st. We're shifting gears from UAPs to artificial intelligence, artificial general intelligence, and artificial superintelligence, with a quantum computer twist. What's real, what's hype, and what it means for the kind of future intelligence that might be listening to all of this one day. There'll be live Chinese subtitles running with the stream, and a message from a friend of mine in Hong Kong who's doing some very interesting work and research around orbs. So if you want to be there in real time to ask questions, push back even, or share your own encounters, keep an eye on the live tab, and I will see you on Sunday.